most stressful situations you're going to be put in as an applicant to a police service is going to be going through the interview stages. The first time I went through an interview with the police service, it ended up being 3 hours long. I was not prepared for this, and I found it quite stressful going through this process. A couple of things you have to be aware of when you're going through an interview is that police officers interviewing you, the recruiting officers, basically want to see you succeed. They want to find out if you're the type of candidate that they'd be happy working with. So something you have to think about is you want to be friendly and you want to demonstrate your personality, let them know who you are, the type of person you're going to be when you're going through the interview process. Another quick tidbit of information I'm going to give you about the interview process is when you're getting asked questions, if you're uncertain about something or confused about a question, ask for clarity. There's nothing wrong with asking a police officer in the recruiting department, I'm sorry, I don't understand the question, can you just be a little bit more specific or provide some more information on what you're after? It's better doing that than to answer the question incorrectly. There's 3 types of interview processes that you should be aware of when you're applying to become a police officer. The first type will be what's commonly referred to as the local focus interview. Police services want to make sure that you're a candidate that's interested in the position with an organization in their area. They want to know that you're committed to that area. They want to know that if they invest time training you, that you're going to be living there for a number of years and willing to work there for a number of years. They'll ask you questions such as, what do you know about our service? Who's in charge of it? What type of units do we have? What type of career path do you see yourself having as a police officer going through our service? What do you know about the area that you're going to be policing? Is it rural? Is it urban? Is this the type of environment you want to live in? Is this the type of environment you want to police? Would you be committed to it? So during the local focus interview, you're basically being asked whether you'd be committed to this organization and this area of policing. It's very important to demonstrate that you are committed to both. The second type of interview that is very common would be called the basically essential competency interview or behavioral-based questions. What's implied with these types of questions is police services are trying to figure out what you're going to be doing in the future based on what you've done in the past. So they'll ask you questions such as, give an example in your life where you're under a stressful situation and how did you deal with it? Or give an example in your life where you had to take on a position of leadership and how did you deal with it? A third common one would be, give an example in your life where you were involved in a conflict with somebody and how did you deal with it? Now, these types of questions, they're going to be very personal in nature. Everybody's answer is going to be different, but you're going to have to pick events that happened in your past, tell a story of what happened, and basically include feelings, how you felt about the situation, actions that you took, and outcomes that resulted from your actions, and basically solve the scenario. Now, people are going to feel stressful about this, but if you relax, think about the stories you're going to be telling. They're personal in nature. You should be very comfortable with these stories. A good idea is basically before you begin answering it would be to give a brief scenario and ask the recruiting officer, would this be a suitable answer before you go into a longer version of the story. Now, it is a personal story, so they're going to want to know what you did. They do not want to hear stories such as, well, we did this, we did that, we did this, we did that. They want to know what you specifically did. A third type of interview that's common with police services is what's basically be called scenario-based questions. Now, these are the what-if questions, and they're very difficult to answer, especially if you don't give any thought before you give your answer. Common ones that are asked would be, what would you do if you caught your father drinking and driving? How would you respond? What would you react? What would you do? Would you arrest your father? Would you let your father go? Another type of common question for a scenario-based question would be, what would you do if you're at a party one day and then all of a sudden you saw someone smoking marijuana? Now, these types of questions, there's no right or wrong answer to them other than how you answer them and how you defend your position and how much thought you actually gave to the answer. So no matter what answer you give, you're going to be challenged on it. So if you say that I'd leave the party, the officer might challenge you and say, well, what are you going to do? Leave every party that you go to for the rest of your life? I don't believe you're going to actually act that way. Why would you do that? Or if you say that you would stay, they might challenge you again, saying something to the effect that, well, you don't know what other drugs are there. There's people smoking dope right in front of you. How can you as a police officer in charge of enforcing the laws justify this? So you're going to have to think about your answers pretty carefully, think about pros and cons for both types of answers, and you're going to have to defend this position. Now, once again, interviewing is very stressful. It's a very long process, a 3-hour interview. On top of going over just your own background, such as your resume and the actions, education, work experience, and volunteer work that you have, you also have to be prepared for these types of interviews: the local focus, the central competency, and scenario-based questions.